Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are commencing to take up the 12th Sutra of the Kaivalyapada. So far we were discussing about Vasanas. Vasanas are beginningless, but the Vasanas can end. And on the other hand, the Sankhya Metaphysics says what exists will never cease to exist. What ceases to exist will never exist. Then we considered the topic of abhava, absence, absence priori, absence posteriori. That means something is absent, but then comes to presence, and something is present and goes to absence. So actually there is a lot of room for confusions and confoundments in such statements, and we see that the things come into existence and depart from existence. From non-existence, the things appear into existence. From existence, they disappear into non-existence. So, what is this confoundment and confusion? So now, metaphysicist Patanjali is trying to give an answer to this question. Atita anagatam swarupataha asti advabhedat dharmanam. So Patanjali says the things, the vastus, the things, they become as if existent. And they also sometimes appear as if non-existent. From existence, they go to non-existence. From existence, they come into existence. What exactly is this? The metaphysics starts explaining this. That it is actually the anagata or anagatatvam or atiatwam of dharmas, of characteristics. So the things become atita lakshana and anagata lakshana. Because on one hand, metaphysics says what exists will never cease to exist. Which doesn't exist will never come to existence. So, what is this? The metaphysicist starts explaining us that there is something called Dharma, and there is something called Dharmi. There is something called characteristics. So, with respect to characteristics, we experience the phenomenon of something coming to existence and something going into non-existence. It is dharmas which come and dharmas which go. It is the characteristics which come and the characteristics which go. And metaphysics explains something as characterized and characteristics. You should recall we had considered these parinama trayas, dharma lakshana avastha parinama, and that dharmi. The dharmi is something which ever exists but exists in different forms. Potentiality, actuality, latency. These are all with respect to characteristics. These are all with reference to dharma. So dharmas are seen to be coming and going. Dharma here means the characteristics. So let's try to open out this quite opaque subject matter. Because the ecology, on the other hand, even modern, it's a science of modern, branch of modern science. What exists will never cease to exist. Then what happens to it? Then why is it that it is not seen? It is going in, it is taking some other characteristics. It is changing the form. Like a piece of wood is existing. But suppose there is a fire, then you realize the wood is gone. Now, if wood is gone, what is gone? The characteristic has gone. Because the wood is going to exist in some form or the other, such as ash. Something will become vapor, something will become smoke. When you burn a piece of wood, what happens? It is transformed into some other manifestation. Because a part of that wood becomes smoke, and we see the smoke going up. A part of it becomes vapor. A part of it becomes ash. That means the wood is continuing to stay in some form or the other, but not the form of the wood. The wood is now either in a smoke form, or vapor form, or ash form. So, this is how something that we can now endorse, we can accept it. Yes, the wood is gone because of fire. The fire has extinguished the wood, but the wood has transformed into forms such as smoke, vapor, and ash. So the characteristic, wood is a characteristic of something, because before the wood came into existence, it was in some other form. The wood was in the form of a tree. The tree will be in the form of a seed. The tree will be in the form of earth. So some matter, the material form or the form of the matter is changing when we say something is gone, destroyed. So therefore we need to understand as students of metaphysics that there is something called as dharmi, the characterized, dharma, the characteristics, and then there is lakshana and avastha. The state of wood has now been reduced to state of ash and a state of smoke, which has merged with the atmosphere. So therefore, as the ecology says, the metaphysicist, the Sankhya metaphysicist also says that nothing is destroyed, it is only changing the form. Like in case of very prominent illustration that comes in the philosophical systems, Indian philosophical systems, is the milk. The milk doesn't become lost for curds to come up. The milk form becomes curd form. But for us, we say there is no more milk. But no more milk means it has not become void. So the milk becomes dadhi. So for it to become dadhi, milk is not destroyed. For milk to become curds, the milk is not destroyed as such. Then what happens? There is a change in dharma. It's called dharma parinama, characteristic change. Now the milkness has transformed into curdness. So that is called dharmantaranam, change of characteristic. So now, in this example, the milk has become latent. And actuality is now it is curds. So that means the curds is potentially there in milk. The curds potentially exist in milk, therefore the curds transforms into milk transforms into curds. And when the curds have come into existence, the milk has gone to latency and not destroyed. Therefore, there are two lakshanas which are spoken of in this sutra, atita anagatam. Because when something has become atita, has gone to latency, it is as good as not existent for us in the business activity of life. Or something is yet to come, like the example that we have cited here. When there is a vessel containing milk, there is no curds. The curds is potentially there. So the curds is anagata parinama of dugdham, and dugdham, after it becomes curds, it is atita parinama. So atita and anagatam are the two states where we see the absence. The curds is absent in milk, but it is potentially there. The milk is absent in curds, but it is latently there. So this metaphysical insight should be on the anvil. That is why Patanjali says atita anagatam are two lakshanas, whereby the absence is happening and absence will be happening. Absence is there, curds is absent in milk, and when it becomes curds, milk will become absent in curds. And therefore, metaphysics gives us this kind of insight. There is nothing like destruction as such. This is what even the modern science of ecology tells us about. Now, if the milk itself is not there, where will you get curds? You won't get curds if the milk itself is not there, because the milk is material cause of curds. The milk gives rise to curds. The curds won't give rise to milk. So curds is a later phenomenon than milk. So there is first the milk and then the curds, rather than there is first curds and then the milk. So we have to understand this sequential order as well. We can't have a vessel of curds and expect that to transform into milk. But we can have a vessel of milk and expect it to become curds. So that's how this the phenomenon is being now slowly opened out from opacity to conspicuity. So there is something called unmanifest condition and manifest condition. Before the manifestation, there is unmanifest phase of it, and after the manifest phase is over, again it can become it goes into the realm of unmanifest. Therefore, like the ecologist, the Sankhya metaphysicist, from time immemorial has been postulating that there are these phases: potentiality, actuality, latency. And therefore, a thing will always stay in some form or the other. Although in business plane of activity we say it is no more or it is destroyed. So this sutra is also important because Patanjalas are what in philosophy we call it Satkaravadam. So to postulate and reinforce the position, the tenet of the philosophers who proclaim the Satkaravadam, this discussion becomes very important. And that is why for philosophy this sutra has come. For philosophers' point of view, the sutra has come. So that should be understood here. So, with reference to what we just now considered, the topic of Vasanas, Vasanas are similarly there. Say for instance, when it's an infanthood of a life form, we don't see certain tendencies. But it is not proper to say that such tendency is non-existent. Certain tendencies are going to appear as the life slowly grows in age and comes to age. So vasanas might seem to be not there, but that is not true. Anagata lakshana, the vasanas are potentially there. See, vasanas of adulthood are not seen in babyhood, infanthood and childhood. That doesn't mean that vasanas are not there. The vasanas are potentially there. That is why when a boy or girl comes to age, we see certain tendencies manifesting. The baby has to come at least to adolescence, a teenage. Then so many things start manifesting and appearing. So before that manifestation, those tendencies were in potential condition. That is the anagatatvam. Anagat, it is not yet come, it is going to come. A moustache for a boy is going to come after the boy has entered puberty, by say teenage. So is the case of girl. As the girl comes to age, we will see changes in body, we will see changes in mind, we will see changes in tendencies. This is because they are potentially there in their babyhood. So similarly, with vasanas discussed as beginningless, but then why is it that they don't appear? They appear for a time to happen. Manifesting cause has to be there. Then the tendency will appear. Infanthood life form, a baby or boy or girl, the sexuality will not be seen. But when the same baby comes to age, then the sexual tendencies can be seen there. So it's a tendency. So it's a vasana. The vasana is existent, it's not non-existent. It is anagata lakshana, yet to come state. And then the vasanas can go to atiatwam. The tendencies will go to latency as well. So actuality, potentiality and latency. This has to be in our purview. Then we will understand certain postulations of metaphysicists and Satkaravada philosophers, or those who advocate Satkaravada. This is what they are trying to mention. Otherwise, we see things are not there, things come into existence, things get destroyed or go to latency. So they are there, They are not there as a first phase, then they are there in the second phase, then they are again not there in the third phase. So, there and not there, what is this with respect to things? So, that is atiatwam and anagatawam. And that is why the ecologists or Sankhya philosophers, which are repeatedly telling you, what exists can never cease to exist. What exists can never be destroyed absolutely. There will be only change in form, just as we took the example of piece of wood. Before the piece of wood came into existence, it was a tree, and after the piece of wood is burnt, it becomes ash, etc. So even an interesting example is given. Say we eat food. There is a food in the plate. And then after a while the plate is empty. Food is gone in one sense. There is no food now. But what has happened to food? Is it really destroyed? Is it gone? It's not gone. It has been eaten by you. And after having eaten, it is going to become your body and mind. So the food will be transformed in your body matter and mind matter. So the food matter will be transformed into another form of matter, which is your body and mind matters. So the food is not destroyed by you eating it. It is transformed by you eating it. It makes the pinda. The food becomes your pinda. The food becomes your form, which is having physical and mental dimensions. So it becomes Sharira Ghataka, Manasika Ghataka. That is why one should recall that verse from Bhagavad Gita, Nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sataha. This is invaluable precept from Bhagavad Gita, which comes in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And then the philosophers elaborate on it, that things which really don't exist, absolutely don't exist, will never come to existence, such as we considered the example of son of a barren woman, or Shashashrunga, horn of a hare, Narashrunga, horn of a human being, or Akasha Pushpa, sky flower, Kha Pushpa. Now these are absolutely non-existent. Therefore, they will never come into existence at all. There is nothing like potentiality and actuality and latency for non-existent things such as son of a barren woman, horn of a hare, horn of a human being, or sky flower. And that is what the Bhagavad Gita verse is telling. Nasato vidyate bhavaha, na asataha vidyate bhavaha, na abhavo vidyate sataha. So what is non-existent will never become existent. In absolute sense, something non-existent will never come into existence in any way. And what is existing will never become non-existent, but will exist in some form or the other, changed form. Like we took the example of burnt wood. So metaphysical topic is being taken to discussion. There is otherwise nothing with the practicality of yoga that we are discussing. The discussion on Vasana is over. But incidentally, a metaphysical question has been taken whereby Patanjali is reinforcing his stand that he is Satkaravadin. So with the help of topic that we discussed about Vasana, Patanjali is mentioning, taking advantage to deal with a pure metaphysical question of actuality and otherwise. On one side it is potentiality, on the other side it is latency. So Bhashyakar Vyasa has presented a prima facie view. If the Vasanas are Sadrupa, the Vasanas should never become non-existent. But then that is not the case. Vasanas can be tackled and handled with Jnana Sadhana, Yoga Sadhana, Dharma Sadhana, Moksha Sadhana. So the Vasanas which are existent from time without beginning will find non-existence, which was explained as disembodiment of the four components. So with that insight, we are now trying to understand here that the milkness to curdness, substance transforming, is not something is lost and something is gotten. It is only transformation. That is called Dharma Parinama. And you should recall the topic of Dharma Parinam, Lakshana Parinam, Avastha Parinam discussed earlier. So when the things seem to be non-existent, they are either atitavastha or they are anagatavastha. Atitavastha means latency, and anagatavastha means potentiality. So we should not lose the sight of these things such as potentiality, actuality and latency. Then we will not really be vehemently, dogmatically postulating of something existent and non-existent. Existent for a while and non-existent after that. And existent for a while and non-existent before that. So, on one hand, Satkaravada has to be embraced. On the other hand, moksha has to be also embraced. Moksha is freedom from vasanas, end of vasanas. And on one hand, the vasanas are beginningless. So, we also get the reinforcement to what we were discussing in the previous sutras about the vasanas. Adhyatmic and paramarthik jnana will start destroying vasanas. Like Bhagavad Gita in its precept says, Jnana agni dagdha karmani bhasmasat kurute arjuna. Like the Jnana Agni, the fire of Jnana will reduce the vasanas to ashes. Like we know that fire reduces the wood to ashes. So Jnana Agni dagdha karmani bhasmasat kurute arjuna. So this is a very well-known verse from Bhagavad Gita. So on the other hand, it also postulates Satkaravadam. So that's how it has been answered by Sankhyas and Patanjalas, by taking recourse to the phases such as potentiality, actuality and latency. Now, it is not just postulation that comes in philosophy. They also consider the other points of view and they are assessed, evaluated and either refuted or proved to be false. So when Patanjalas are endorsing and postulating Satkaravada, they also have to refute Asatkaravadam. So the Nayayikas and Vaisheshikas, they have assessed the standpoint of Sankhya's and Patanjalas because they don't endorse with the same view. So in our philosophical system, Sankhya's and Vedantins have assessed the Bauddha Matas, the Nyaya Vaisheshikam thought, Because there is Asatkaryavada, there is Satkaryavada. And that's how the philosophical systems deal with a problem. And when they postulate something, they have to do this as well. That they have to consider other views and refute the other views. So the Naiyayikas have a prima facie view which is actually critical about the Sankhya's point of view of Satkaryavada. So they have this point of view which is interesting. Take note of it. So there is something called Avirbhava and Tirobhava. Avirbhava means coming into existence and Tirobhava means departing from existence. That means the cause before the effect is there or not there. So, as it is postulated, and they also endorse it, from dugdham, from milk, you get curds. From curds, you get buttermilk. From buttermilk, you get clarified butter. So there is this appearance and disappearance. But then it is redundant, or it is not proper, or it's not logical to postulate that there is milk in curds, there is milk in butter, there is milk in clarified butter. If at all it is there, turn it out. Allow us to get the milk from clarified butter, milk from curds. So this is not possible. We can get curds out of milk, but cannot get back milk from curds. So the logicians are little critical about this postulation. You can get curds out of milk, but you cannot get back milk from curds. So is the case of clarified butter and milk. So also cow's milk cannot be, you cannot be getting grass out of cow's milk, although the grass will become milk in cow and buffalo. So they say that your Satkaryavada has a defect, and perhaps defect in all practical purposes. So you are trying to be on the fence, and you are running from the reality, worldly reality, material reality. So Satkaryavada says Avirbhav Purva Avirbhav. Now this is Anavastha dosh. This is a defect. Avirbhav prior to Avirbhav, and Avirbhav posterior to Avirbhav. Then why do you have the two conditions such as presence and absence? You should not speak about presence and absence, appearance and disappearance. Therefore, your position is not really very strong. This is what Naiyayikas have the argument. Like in sesame seed, you can get oil, but you can't get sesame seed back from oil. So you just wait for happenings. So that's a kind of fatalistic view. Fatalistic view. You will wait for oil to come out of sesame seed. You will wait for curds to come out of milk. So it's a kind of prarabdhavada. You want the things to happen. Now, Naiyayikas and Vaisheshikas are classical physicists. they believe in, or they are strong advocates of cause and effect. That if this is the cause, this will be effect. If this is the effect, the effect will have such effect. So, you have kind of a one-way traffic, milk to curds to butter to clarified butter. But you don't have a condition from clarified butter to curds to milk. So they are little critical about the Satkaravada. So anyway, this sutra is coming to mention or try to cite the defects in the Sankhya's Satkaryavadam. Like a cattle will have horn growing. The horn will come on a cattle. But from horn the cattle cannot come. So, therefore, they are little critical about the point of view of metaphysicists who are Sankhyas and Vedantins. But anyway, what we are discussing is something as Dharma Parinama, the Parinam in Dharma. And therefore, the absolute view of nothing can be destroyed, which is really existent. It can be only changed in form. So, Atita Anagatam Swarupataha Asti. They are there potentially or latently, but they are there. Advabhedata Dharmanam. It is Dharma only goes in different phases. Milk phase to curd phase, the substance travels. But something is there. Constantly, whether it is milk or curds or butter or clarified butter, something constant is there. This is the view of metaphysicists. While the physicists, that is not their subject matter to deal with. So, Advabhedat Dharmanam is the second part of the sutra. It is only different phases, paths. The milk has travelled through a path where it is going to become curds. The milk can travel to in a path whereby milk becomes cream. But there is another path for milk to become curds. So these are different paths for matter to travel. And that is called Advabhedat Dharmanam. Advabhedam, the path. So, if it is adhering to path, we can definitely conclude with kind of dictum that it is going to become this, like milk is going to become curds if it goes through this path. The milk is going to become cream if it goes through that other path. So, that is what the sutra is discussing. Okay. Now, these three avasthas are to be understood. That there is potentiality, there is actuality, and there is latency. Now, this is very important postulation of the metaphysicist. So, that is what this sutra is discussing. Now, let us see furthermore what the sutra is going to divulge and what it has furthermore to divulge. But we'll do that in our next session. Enough for the time being. Namaskar, all of you.